Well, in our top story this morning, day 2 of interviews for the position of National Director of Public Prosecutions resumes in about an hour's time. Candidates being interviewed today include Advocate Xolisile Khanyile, Advocate Hermione Cronje, and Advocate Menzi Simelane. On that story, we've got SABC News reporter Canny Maphanga. Canny, yesterday certainly was a very interesting day, and it's amazing how a lot of it centered around the questions and the questioning of Advocate Andrea Johnson. Talk to us about, yesterday and then, of course, today, what to expect.
Indeed. Good morning to you, Leanne, and to the viewers at home. It's day 2 where we expect 3 more candidates to be interviewed for that all-important post that Advocate Shamila Batoye is expected to vacate at the end of January 2026. That is the National Director of Public Prosecutions. We know that all 6 of these candidates are candidates that are within the system, so they have some sort of experience as prosecutors and managers within the National Prosecuting Authority. So we expect that a lot of them will face those very tough questions about some of the flaws and cracks in the NPA, as well as the dwindling public trust in this particular institution at a time where there's a huge expectation from the public regarding a lot of the matters that they have seemingly failed to prosecute or succeed in, whether it is areas of state capture or gender-based violence or the high murder rates in South Africa. There are quite huge expectations on the National Prosecuting Authority, and that extends to the kind of figure that they expect to get into that particular post. Of course, the final decision is that of the president. He enjoys that exclusive power to appoint the next NDPP. However, this is part of the consultative process in order for the search of the, the NDPP to be transparent and rational once the president takes that particular decision. Now, of all the 6 candidates, there are a few that are going to garner more interest than others due to the current climate that we're in South Africa. And I think one of those candidates is the current IDAC head, that is Advocate Andrea Johnson. You may remember that when the candidates list was given out to the public or made public, they asked for public comments regarding the suitability of these particular individuals to enter into this race for the next NDPP head. And of course, the comments that came from the public were running up to 281. And of course, 209 of those were dedicated solely to Advocate Andrea Johnson. We've heard yesterday through her interview that only 1 was for her candidacy, meaning that 208 objected to the candidacy of Advocate Andrea Johnson. Of course, she is facing a number of tough questions, as IDAC is the institution that is tasked with investigating and, of course, prosecuting those high-level crimes as well as state capture-related matters. And we've seen over the number of years they've struggled quite extensively to secure at least 1 conviction since that work has been completed. So, of course, in the performance or lack thereof became the subject of her interview, as well as other serious concerns they may have had with respect to her CV. We are hearing that she had listed a reference that was of an individual that was implicated recently in the Ekurhuleni corruption allegations that were placed before the Madanga Commission. So she faced quite a tough interview and, of course, received the highest number of objections. But she's not the only candidate that we're expecting some kind of questioning around. We know that today the last interview will be that of former NDPP Advocate Menzi Simelane, and we know that the DA recently sent a letter to this particular panel threatening to halt these proceedings or this process if Advocate Simelane is allowed to proceed in this particular interview. You may remember that he was a former NDPP and that some time back the Constitutional Court invalidated his appointment that was done by former President Jacob Zuma and found that he was not fit and proper for that particular post. So I'm sure that issue is going to come back up when that interview takes place later this afternoon from 2 p.m. But we are expecting that the first person up will be Advocate Khanyile, and she has quite an extensive experience in the issue of anti-corruption. Then she'll be followed by Advocate Cronje, who was the inaugural IDAC head and, of course, had to vacate that post quite early and abruptly, and I'm sure questions surrounding that will pop up. And then, of course, it'll be finished by Advocate Simelane, and we can expect that if he does make that shortlist, then the DA will certainly, according to that letter we saw yesterday, be making their way to the court to challenge such a decision. All that and more at 9 a.m. this morning when those interviews begin.
All right. Thanks very much, Canny Maphanga. We look forward to it. And of course, remember, we will be crossing there and taking that one live as well. So